I want to explain why I will never be selling all of my FLR, which is Flare's native token. Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice, some people may be thinking, why would you maybe hypothetically never sell all? Even though I'm not telling you to do anything, my point of view is this. I've seen, something like ADA a long time ago, right? Which is Cardano's native token. At one point, it was hovering around a couple cents. Then suddenly in 2021, price, reached nearly $3, give or take. And then there was a pullback, but I've never seen like ADA at the price of 5 cents. You know what I mean? Ever since a long time ago. So the way you take a look at it is that if, let's say, FLR went to the price of 25 cents during a fully fledged type of altcoin season, and then let's say it had a 90% pullback, so then let's say it went to the price of around 2.5 cents, right? That's still basically kind of the price that we have right now when it comes to FLR. So if I don't even mind holding FLR right now, why would I be complaining about that? This is just my point of view, but even besides that, look, right, of course there's going to be a moment to exit because, or not, what's the point? But then to me, in a sense where at least I want to keep 10% of my holdings because I believe in the long-term future as well when it comes to Flare. If I saw Flare as this project that might be around for kind of the short to medium term, why would I want to be holding it in the long term? I wouldn't do that, but then because I like it for the long term, I'm staying patient. And also, again, I just never want to sell all of my FLR, and this is just personally my perspective. Because what I like about Flare as of late is the aspect of XRP-Fi. And if I take a look at the future of Ripple, I must say that it does look pretty hypothetically good in my perspective, because not only is kind of the stuff that went on a long time ago with the SEC and stuff like that kind of basically a thing of the past. What I like about it as well is that XRP, right, not too long ago reached a market cap of around 200 billion, and that was not even during a fully fledged type of altcoin season. Now, I'm not saying that FLR is ever going to be that massive, right, at least in the short to medium term or even ever, but then if it kind of has that aspect, again, of XRP-Fi when it comes to Flare, and let's say Ripple does have a lot of attention, I don't see why this maybe won't hypothetically sort of go along with the ride a little bit. Because we've seen times when Solana really had a lot of attention, some of these Solana-based meme coins, they kind of went along with the ride, right? So it's just kind of the vibe that we're having here, but again, only time will tell. Flare isn't just really, I think, kind of dependent on that, though. I mean, it is kind of as a standalone project, I think pretty interesting too. It is the blockchain for data. It does have an aspect of Ethereum virtual machine, or should I say EVM. So that is pretty cool. And also, if we take a look at Flare, it has an aspect of, the Flare time series oracle, and as well as the data connector, which is for trustless data proofs. This allows information from other blockchains and the internet to be used on Flare. Whereas if we take a look at the Flare time series oracle, or should I say FTSO, right? That right there is the native oracle for Flare. But then more interestingly, I think what I find impressive about this is that we've seen kind of the success, I would say historically speaking, of Chainlink. And Chainlink is very focused on oracles. It's very well known for its decentralized oracle network. And if we take a look at an oracle in this case, it's basically a data feed that brings data from off the chain. So it's off-chain data, brings that data over into the blockchain, and it does this to help decentralized applications function properly. And considering how there's many decentralized applications out there that do need off-chain data, I do find that pretty crucial and pretty, needed, I would say, in the grand scheme of things. So when I take a look at Flare, I do like that aspect when it comes to it. Overall, I just like the vibe when it comes to Flare. Now, I think that personally, if let's say I was a developer, right? Maybe I could design a project to have good fundamentals or make it, pretty interesting. However, I think something that can't be designed for is that it factor, right? I don't think it can be preemptively designed for that, hey, when I make this project, it's going to be fun, it's going to be something that people find cool. I don't think it could just be like that. So when it comes to Flare, seeing it have that aspect, I actually like seeing that because I think, again, in terms of the presence, it has that it factor for me. Now, what I also like about Flare is that I just kind of feel like it has a little bit of an aspect of a meme coin in a sense. Now, before someone says, whoa, FLR is not a meme coin, totally aware of that. But if I take a look at a meme coin, sometimes the popular ones, right? Because the use case isn't the best, it has this, very passionate community. This kind of makes it sort of evens it out, I would say. But then when it comes to FLR, again, which is Flare's native token, it's not a meme coin, right? Of course, but then it kind of has that vibe to me, again, that passion community when it comes to FLR. But then it's not a meme coin, so then it's kind of like a best of both worlds type of scenario, where it's kind of like a more serious utility-driven project, but then it has that fun aspect too in terms of, the community and sort of the vibe. Because usually, right, the way you take a look at it, these type of utility-driven projects, they don't seem to have the most kind of energy the way you take a look at it, because even though I take a look at Filecoin's native token called Phil, which, if I take a look at the market cap, it's like nearly 2 billion, so it's kind of in that same sort of range when it comes to the size, when it comes to FLR. And even though I believe in Filecoin, I don't see that many people talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, sure, it's pretty massive, but I think even FLR has more attention than that. So, again, that is kind of that if factor, which I think can't really be preemptively designed for, or pre-designed, I would say initially, right? So then I'm still staying patient when it comes to FLR because even historically speaking, even though I take a look at how, as a worst case scenario, usually altcoins, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event, and 18 months from the last Bitcoin halving event would actually mean October this year, which is, in October because the last one happened in April of 2024. Again, the Bitcoin halving event. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen in October exactly because, who knows, it may be different this time around. So I'm still staying patient. So whether or not it happens in maybe this month, or maybe next month, or maybe the month after that in December, or maybe waits until January or even March of 2026, who knows? All I can do is stay patient because if it ever even does, I just want to be prepared by dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting, and that's pretty much about it. However, to me, I know that, usually when there is a bull run, there's going to be bear market that follows. I'm totally aware of that. I mean, there's going to be a pretty massive pullback when it comes to FLR eventually, I think, if this cycle is over, if we do ever see a fully fledged type of altcoin season. But still, even despite that, again, the example that I used before, even a 90% drop from 25 cents is still 2.5 cents. So this is just the way to take a look at it. Again, I'm not telling you to do anything, but it's just my perspective. What I like about FLR ultimately is that, again, I find it a pretty interesting project. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. And personally for me, I am not only just holding FLR, right? I'm holding other projects too. But I just kind of want to use it as one of my foundational pieces because I feel like FLR is sort of kind of up and coming, right? People don't really consider it sometimes as this very sort of, at least a lot of my friends, interesting project, but I still like it for what it is. I like the utility. And again, that's just pretty much about the way to take a look at the project. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.